So I'm going to have this translated into Mizo, because this is a very the topic of my talk has a very very great interest for Mizoram. So May is going to translate as I go. The subject of my talk is oral histories intersecting to build a picture of ancient Israel in Asia. And particularly I'll be talking about memories of a lost book, dwelling in a cave, and Israelite customs amongst those people.
Vaina kantu pui turchu Asia rama Israel thate anun ludan le kha oka anin shildan ani tlang pui.
There's a very long myth over in Israel amongst the Jews that the lost 10 tribes crossed a river called the Sambatan River, and they're on the other side and they can't come back. So there's a myth within Judaism on that. Many people believe that that river may be the Taklamakan Desert, which is west of China. And there's a picture of the sand dunes looking like a river.
Juda ho ina anin zirtir na le tun thenga an soina chuanin khangnam sombo te khanin Asia khawmualpui an ludon khanin lui pakhadan kana chu sambotian luian tia chu voini thenghian an lai in shil chhong zelania chumi achang chuanin an thate ambo dang kha anin hlandan ani a omani.
The sound okay? Okay, so the things I'll be going through is Israelite customs, lost book stories, cave dwelling legends, Manasseh as a name, escaping a big wall, and some linguistic similarities.
Ti chuan voina hian point sang karon soidona chung te chu Israel nam dan te lekhabu bo chanchin te puka anom thu te Manasseh te le Banglian talan tlan sia dan te le chong sang khat in anga omzia te karon soyanga.
Okay, so the first part, Israelite customs. Here's a map from Rabbi Avakale, and the lower dotted lines are the lines that he thinks that the Israelites came to China through.
Tuna screen in huang hianin hedilaya hianin Israel how te kha anun tlan lu dan le engkong yan hon zoti kha in huthenga.
Okay, and so the northern kingdom of Israel went into captivity between 740 and 720 BCE.
Marlam leram te kha saltana nom khanin BC zasari som li changa zasari som ni in kara khanan salantanga.
Okay. All right. So first I want to talk about is the Karen Israel identity. In the early 1800s, Dr. and Mrs. Mason found remarkable evidence that the Karens were Israelite. They had accurate traditions of the creation and fall and future regeneration of man.
Ampasa chuanin Karen le Israel namte inan na kanena nga kum sangka zaria tirla ma khanin Mrs. Mason te chuanin Israel le I Karen hote in nam inan dan te an hua an nam zia rang zong te kha an va mu chwaka.
They had a legend of crossing a river of running sand and coming from a place called Tibi Kobe, which many people think is Tibet and the Gobi Desert.
Chungan thon thu Karen ho thon thu a chuanin lui pakhadan kana chu Tibi Kobe a chengin rong kala ni an tia ma se tun lai mi te chuanin chu Tibet a oma Gobi thale ra om ni nan sha.
Okay, here's a picture of the Taklamakan Desert near the Gobi Desert.
Hilaya lem kan huang hianin hei hi Tibi Kobe a thale kha nia.
What's interesting about the Karen is that in 2010 their year, because they started dating themselves many years ago, was 2,749, and so what it means is that the year that they started counting was 739 BC, the very year after the Northern Kingdom went into captivity.
kum sang ni som kha an ta chuanin kum sang ni zali zasari somli pakwa nia chu chu an kum chiar chan na kha kum zasari somthum pakwa BC khani na langa chan chu kha ka marlam lalram kha saltan na lut chat kum kha nia.
This is one of the poems. When the Karen king arrives, there will be one monarch, one king. There will be neither rich nor poor. Everything will be happy. The beasts will be happy. The lions and the leopards will lose their savageness.
Ampoin pakadan thu anla pakada so heti hanan zaka karen lal kha ron kirle huna swanin lalbi kanom to lawanga million le mirethayanom to lawanga mi zong zong an hlimanga ni nang tang to do na chingthia le sake baknei te pon tla za to ang ti nan soya.
So the next people group I want to talk about is the Kwangmin. Now these people are just west of Chengdu in China. And the history says that in 1860, Dr. McGowan read a paper before the British Association saying that there was a colony of Jews west of Chengdu, and he thought that the Karen may have come from them.
Kwangmin te hi Chengdu China omania kum sang ka zariat somru khani Dr. McGowan khani British Association am paper kha lo chhar khani khang nam te kha Israel nam bau te an ni thu ring hala.
So about 100 years later, in the early 1900s, a Scottish missionary by the name of Reverend Thomas T. Torrance lived amongst these people, the Chiang Men, and he thought that they were ancient Israelites.
Tiswang kum sang ka zakwa somni khani Scottish missionary Reverend Thomas T. Torrance kha heng nam Chiang Men te bula hen chenga Israel number 1 ni zia kha a shengal theya.
He found many Old Testament parallels between their way of worship.
An pathian biak dana te khanin pathian thu Bible mi nenin ang tam taka hmuwa.
But it was finding a Moses rod, a Moses serpent rod, that finally convinced Torrance that these people were actually Israelites.
Tiswang khang ho nam zinga khanin mo sia tiang hmu wang khanin heng nam de Israel nam bo te nge an ni ti ka rin na ane zwal ta.
Okay, and so you can see on the screen here the Moses rod. My friend Daman Wu is in possession of 2 of them because he's a museum curator. So both of these rods are in a museum somewhere.
Etilaya kan lo muka show the photos. Hemi hi Israel rod ni ya hetiang hi to cha museum man da to ni.
So the next part I want to talk about is the Epic of Manasseh. In Kyrgyzstan, Richard Hewitt, who's our other presenter this morning, found over 300 striking biblical traditions in the Epic of Manasseh.
Manasseh te chansin so heta kan researcher po Richard Hewitt hianin na lo zir thwa Kyrgyzstan na khan lo zir thwa ka.
Okay, Manasseh's father was Jacob, and Manasseh of Kyrgyzstan's father was Jacob, and Manasseh was adopted by Jacob.
Iswan Kyrgyzstan na Manasseh pa ming chu Jacob te nia chu Jacob ati minga changan lak chona nia.
Both had an exodus with 600,000 men in the exodus.
Chung te chuan chung mishing pani te chuanin plus an chwa kum khanin mi pa singruk lion nei ve ve ni.
So Jacob in Kyrgyzstan had 2 brothers that had 12 sons altogether. 10 were agitators and 2 helped with flocks.
This one in Kyrgyzstan na Jacob chuanin unaw pa pani ania chung te am pani bel khom chuanin fa pa som le pani ania mi som te khan til rado mi angan nia chami pani khanin beram te le bongvul na khanan chan puya.
So of course in the Bible Jacob has 12 sons, 10 before his favorite wife, and then when his favorite wife was able to conceive, he had 2 more sons.
Bible apo khan Jacob khanin fa som le pani ania fa som kha anei nuwa khanin anupui mangai jok ne na khan fa pani anei le ti kan mu kha.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the miso cookie. Whilst missionaries from southwest China and Burma were the ones to find Israelite traditions, it was 2 ethnographers from Manipur and Mizoram who documented the elders' Israelite traditions here.
This one mizo le cookie in kara Israel tin he nai anin lai chin na kan hmu chuanin China le Burma in kara khan khang ho zir chan na kha na ne khanin in kung kai na le in nai na sa tak mai an lo ne ya ti chuan upa te dan han so te khan upa te khanin nam dan le du nan han kal dan te an han soi khanin Israel tin he na in nai na han lo nei na se me ma.
And of course, both of them have passed away. And tomorrow morning, about 10:40, we will be doing a tribute to Dr. Kuplan and Zaitang Chuni.
Chung researcher pani te chu tu na chuanin an lo chol to nak tu ka hian an mani sha reng na hun pukublin le dai than chungi tan sha reng na hun kan nei pokang.
And so this is a letter that I have. It's in Mizo, so only Mizo people can read this. My understanding is this is from the son of the cook of some missionaries back in the 1910, I think it is, and he overheard the missionary husband and wife talking about Israelite customs amongst the Mizo.
Hemi hi lekha thoni mizo chunga ziania mizo te zage chhar tham ka so an chhar thei anga he tai hanin kum sang kha zakwa som vela khanin mizo te le Israel te in tha in anna thuan soina le anin hlan chon dang kha zaki no mani.
And so the wife was speaking, and then the husband said to the wife, "I do not want you to say anything about the Israelite customs ever again."
Hetia anin soilai hanin an nupui zo khanan chanchin kha soya ma sia pasal chuanin he thu hetiang thu hi soi tolo during ka do chen ye chan chu mizo te le Israel te anin an na hi voi kha ma soi to su atia.
Okay, I don't know why he did that. We can only speculate.
A soi chan kan shela warin dan kan ngai kan siam mei thei zo ka ni.
So the Kuki ethnographer, an ethnographer just means somebody who records oral history. That's what an ethnographer is.
Kuki ethnographer hi oma chu ku ethnographer kan ti chuanin hun kal to song song a thil thleng te lo record tu ang hian nia.
So Dr. Kuplan Milu Lengtan, is that, am I saying that right? Spent 50 years collecting poems and chants.
Dr. Kuplan Milu Lengtan hianin thu an hlan te thu cham te thu le hla te kha akum som nga chu liam ta mi kha alo collect char chara.
So the Mizo ethnographer is Zaitang Chuni. She met Rabbi Eliyahu Avikail in the early 1980s in Jerusalem, and he asked her to interview the old people. She has recorded her findings in her books.
Mizawa chuan kan ethnographer kan nei chu zai than chungi khani ani khanin Rabbi Eliyahu Avikail te kha kumsang ka zakwa somriat khana lo huwa Mizo te ne na anin kun anin andan te azir khata chang khana zirba ka lekhabu te kha asiamani.
So I think Zaitang Chuni's book, I think there's maybe 20 copies left, and I think Dr. Kuplan's book was burnt in the fires. There's one copy here, but I think it was burnt in the fires in Manipur earlier this year, all the spare copies. So here's one of the poems or the songs that Dr. Kuplan recorded. I crossed the river with a narrow pass. Be united and strong like a fine, refined iron, and carry it like a trophy with great joy and pride. We would not be popular since we have so many enemies. I fought many battles and wars continuously. We are the children of Manmasu.
This one in hemi he Dr. Kuplan na poema collect zinga pakhadania chu lui te me hi kan ka na ta chuanin in lungrwa le chaktakin kan oma ne na kan changania ti chuan in do na tam tak kan to ka chumlo chatlawin kan beya ma se manase fate kan ni atia.
Okay. So part 2, the lost book peoples.
Bung hi na chuan le khabu chan jing kan soi do na ni.
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the Karen lost book story. Just to let you know, I lived in Thailand for over a year, and we've been back and forth to Thailand for many years. I have Karen friends. I have lots of, lots of Karen friends too. And so this is their story. They once had a golden book, and it was burnt. It was burnt when they were doing the Zoom. So that's Zoom. Everybody understands Zoom. but they saved some of the pages, and so they took the pages inside, and they were still able to read some of this burnt book, but they allowed the pages of the book fell through the bamboo floor, and chickens and pigs ate it.
In current housing, I have coming moza kom to a kangzi nga kanin an chansin min shila cha lekha bu bo chansin an neya chu chu rang ka chak lekha bu an neya mai ro chu 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 akang ra man hal na khan chu akang chu art le fok te da ne ni din nan soya.
Okay, and as I said before, they date themselves from the day, from the year after the Northern Kingdom went into captivity.
Anni po chuanin marlam lalram kha salatan kumachang khanin an hun kha an cher chau chana.
So I'll just go through these fast. The Kachin have a lost book. They said their forefathers lost a book.
Kachin ho khanin lekha bu bo chan sin ne yam pi am pu te ho khanin lekha bu chuan lau ti bawan in tia.
The Lahu said their creator gave them a book. The book of the law, and it was written on rice cakes, and during a famine they got hungry and ate it.
Lahu ho chuanin lekha bu chuan neya mai ro chu khati hun lai han chama ron thlengan ri la chama lekha bu chu le raisa choas changa samani wangin an eitan in tia.
The Wa await a white brother, like the Karen do. The Karen were waiting for a white brother to come with their lost book, and so do the Wa.
Ti chuan wa ho chuanin an unau pa te kharon le ta lekha bu bo te ron pelet turin am be se ya karan hau namang khan.
The Shah and the Palau people. Is it Palau? Is that how you say that? Palaung. Palaung. Sorry. The Shan and the Palaung people looked to a fifth manifestation of Buddha who was spoken about in their scriptures that were lost during the war in Laos.
Sham le palong nam chuanin an Buddha kha aron thuron soina khatiang ron soiza voinga na khanin I an lekha bu bo chungchang ron shila chu chu in do na laos ne na nin do na khan lekha bu chuan ti bo nin tia.
The Kui tribesmen await a messenger who will bring their lost book back, and they have a special place of worship, as do the Lahu. They build these long houses so that when the one bringing the book comes, they have somewhere to worship.
Ti chuanin kyun ham ho chuanin an lekha bu bo kha mi pakhatin ron keng don an tia chumi atan so an lawin bat soya worship na hun tur chi bai buk na hun tur lian takan lo sa ron thlen huna chu tiang chun ti an be an ring boka.
The Lisu in Yunnan province, China, believe a king, one day their own, would one day rule over them and restore their book in their own language.
So Lisu nam ho chuan in Yunnan province sami an ne kina chuan lal pakhat ron kalanga chu chuan an lekha bu bo ron pelet le anga an mani chong ngei nen ziak toang ti nan ringa.
The Nagas consist of 24 tribes. One tribe, the Ring Ma, say a supreme being gave his words to their forefathers on animal skins, and dogs ate it.
Naga nami nam som ni palian niya ti chuan an rin dan chuanin an nam pakhat reng ma nam khanin an lekha bu chu pa lal thunei takin a pe a chu chu savuna changa siam ani wangin ui na ne anin tia.
The Mizo researcher Zaitang Chuni records the oral tradition of the Mizos, their leather scrolls in which their ancestral history of the tribes and families were written was lost due to continual slavery. They were left behind in labour camps when they fled China.
Researcher Mizo zinga kan ni zai than chungi kha chuan heti ha soi kan lekha bu bo kha lekha ziala nia chu chu kan pi le pu te kha mun sang sanga ra ka na an kal bo wang kha ni an tlan chan lama an ti bo ani an tia chu an lekha bu bo te chu China an ron tlan chiat lai kha ni an kal san ani an ti.
According to another legend, the leather scrolls were eaten by a dog of the keeper of the scrolls.
Tudanga an soi le dan chuanin kha lekha bu zial kha mi lekha bu zial veng tu ui te kha la nei zawani ti in zia kan ni bok.
There was an emperor in China, Shi Huangti, who burnt all the books except books on agriculture and medicine, and they relocated all their people all to different places in China.
Emperor China kan Emperor Shi Huangti oma chu chuanin lekha bu agriculture te dam doi lam zir na zong song kha hal ve ka mi pui te po kha mun sang sanga khanina son darani.
Okay, so he only kept his books on philosophy of legalism. He could have been known as a derogatory title of dog, and so therefore the stories that a dog ate the book may be referring to this emperor.
ที่ส่วนสูเลป้าจวนยินอามาเลขบูเจ้าดานเลดุนเจ้าคำมันพละที่ส่วนขาเลป้าค่ะอามิงาจวนอุยตีนันผัวบุกะข้าวางขานินอุยใน80เนี่ยขานินไอเมเบลเทเอาสัมเพนี่
So we need to ask, is this burning book episode etched into everybody's collective memories so that the peoples of the lost book have been passed down through tradition? What book was so important that the memory of it was passed down from parent to child?
เฮงเลขาบุบสันสินน้ำตินเฮียนอันเล่าเนี่ยฮีโกกาอาบดันเตอันเล่าอินชิลในเลขาบุบหมดตักนี้อินอันหลังอ่ะสุวรรณใจเฮงน้ำทรงเทียนอินอันนับประคัดอันเล่าในเทบกันเนี่ย
There's lost book legends that connect the Mizos, the Kuki, and the Chin to Israel.
ที่ส่วนนี้มิเจ้าคุกกี้เลจินเตน่าเลขาบุบวันเนี่ยฮีอินอันตันนั้นเล่าในเวกา
And it's through this book. Kuki ethnographer Dr. Kupelin writes about this lost book. He actually says that the sources of their poems and their chants, their Temtu Lapi, they're the reasons that they have them is because that they once had a scroll that was lost, and they're trying to keep the memory of it alive.
Kukia an ethnographer Dr. Kuplam Kanin Hele Kabubo Chung Sang Te Oka Tuan Lawin Shil Tele Tem Tu Ti Te Lapi and Ti Te Tu Le La Zong Zong Te Achang Hanin Koyachang Local Ni Ti Hia Mute a Basea.
Okay, and here's one of them. During the reign of Kupti Mangpa, the Red Sea had gone dry. Cloud in the day and fire in the night led the people.
Point pakata son heti hanin ziaka could be kalal lai khani red sea kha tui pui sen kha akang chata ti chuan mi te chu ol sam takin angkal kai thea zana eng in a shwaya chuna chumdinga oma tin.
And then it says that they had to get water from a rock because the people were thirsty.
Ti chuanin lungpui changin tui an lak chhuate angaya chan chu mi pui te khan tui hal wangin.
Okay. No doubt these peoples of the lost book are the people of the book, the Bible. The story of the Israelites is unmistakable in the preceding poem.
Ti chuan tuna puim te thule la kan han siarang kan hangai tha ka chang khanin heng nam ho te hin nam bo Bible ina asoi nam bo te alo anti kha an lo ni thei ani.
Zaitang Chuni interviewed thousands of people in the 1980s, and contrary to her own beliefs, she believes that the elders here in Mizoram, who remember the name Manasseh or Manasseh, along with many Hebrew-like customs, caused her to believe that the Mizos' ancestors are the part of the famous lost tribes of Israel.
Zaitan sungin mi sang chuang Mizoram chunga interview nei na khanin kum lama upazok te an ya chung chuanin malaya ampi le pute na dan le donan lo man dan de an chungka thuan lawin shil te le an thil lo chin dan zong zong te kha he Mizo nam te po hi Bible ina nam sombo asoi te jinga mi kha ni the ni atia.
And so now I'm going to talk about Central Asia, so Kyrgyzstan and Altai. Altai is in southern Siberia. They also have a lost book.
Tuna chuanin Kyrgyzstan sa Central Asia Kyrgyzstan te Altai nam te chungchang kan soi lenga chung ho po chuan le khabu bo chan chen an neya.
Okay, and so one of the versions goes, when the Kitai, which means northern China, when the Kitai, who say we are the only ones in this world who have knowledge, robbed the sacred fort and burnt sacred writings from the treasury, they said, may the darkness that is fallen on the Kyrgyz also come on their minds so they might not know another writing.
Khi tai nam chuanin an mani Chinese tribals ni a chung ho chuanin ke mani chau hi I mun thiang hlim roka thil thiang hlim la chhuaka mun thiang hlim atanga thil ziak thu ziak thiang hlim tak la chhuak thei te kha kan ni a chuwa chwa Kyrgyz nam chunga hianin a chat na lo thleng sela an ngai twa na eng ma lo thleng heng thil hi ziak thei to lo turin om ro sen tia.
So in other words, the Kyrgyz actually remember that the Chinese burnt their book.
Sumi omzia chu Kyrgyz ho khani nan shadan swani Chinese ho khani nan le khabu khan haral sakani anti.
Okay. So listen to this story of a lost book. North of Kyrgyzstan in Altai, they have a legend of a golden book, just like the Karen had a golden book.
Karanin rangkatsak lekhabu anne ang che khanin Kyrgyz ho khanin rangkatsak lekhabu anne ya.
Okay, in their golden book is put into a golden chest and is reminiscent of the golden ark of the Bible.
Ti chuan an lekhabu bo rangkatsak lekhabu chu rangkatsak bom chunga an da chu Bible a rangkatsak thutlung bom nen kha nei nang hle a.
Okay. So the Mizos have a memory of a lost book. The Karen have a version of a burnt book. There's burnt books in China. There's the burnt books in the Epic of Manas. And so I think we're looking at the same story from many different angles.
Mizoten nam lekhabu bo chansin an neya Karen an neya mun shang at nam shang ten lekhabu bo chansin an neya chu wang chuan thlir dan na tlang dang atangin han thlir tai la.
So Esther Chen's written a book called Sons of Sheep. You can download that if you come and see me afterwards. I have a copy of that. And she talks about the Kwangmin in China, just west of Chengdu. And they have very, very, very many Israelite customs. And what she said to me was a select group of very priestly families moved into the mountains in southwest China to preserve their customs so that their traditions and their history would not be lost.
Esther Chen khanin a lekhabu Sons of Sheep khanin ti hian ziaka mitam tak te chu China nam le dan le dun te vongnung turin uncle khomani din.
Okay, 100 years ago Reverend Torrance watched a Yom Kippur-like ritual amongst the Kwangmin, and when he was explaining to the priest from the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, it says that the priest jumped up and he says, "These are our lost scriptures."
Reverend Torres ka Kwangmin how damzinga khanin Yom Kippur ang deu hle kut an nei a khan atela Leviticus bu han chher khanin am pui thiam chu a ron ding chhuaka he hi kan lekhabu bo zinga mi kha ni hi ron tia.
So he goes on to say that the book, the Bible, is actually the Bible of his people, and the lost scriptures are the Bible. And so he and his whole family become Christian.
Chumia omzia chu lekhabu bo an lo soi chin kha Bible hi alo ni a ti chuan Bible bung le changa chan chuan lekhabu bo an hmu thei ta ka chuan ama le a fa te anu pui te a chung kwa zong kha ring tuan lo ni ta ni.
Okay, specifically to do with the mizo and the cookies is a story of people having lived in caves.
Mizo te le cookie na ma hianin thatu te achangin pukan lo cheng chin ti zia ka oma.
Okay, the Mizo researcher says that one of the old names of the Mizo was Chinlung, meaning cave dwellers.
A researcher te dan lo zirna po khanin Chinlung chuak ti Mizo te hi kanin soi china chu puka cheng chin te ti na ni me ya.
My friend Wu Damen in China translated Zai Tangchuni's book into Chinese, read about the reference to Xinlong, and he went and found, you can see on the map up there, there should be a map here, where the red dot is, that's Xinlong, X-I-N-L-O-N-G in China. So is it the famous Xinlong of the Mizos? Maybe.
China ka champa udong hianin zai than sung lekhabu kha Chinese in a letlinga chu I Chinlung chuak ti te khani a han soi khanin a Jinlong China khan mu chuak ka hetlai me pa kan hmuang khan khiti lai khanin dot sena in za khiania ti chuanin sumi nen chuanin Chinlung chuan ti te hi in som the nge mo ti ngai dan te om thea.
Okay, and so the Mizos sing songs like, "The famous Xinlong is my home, it is the land of my father and mother."
Mizo chuan lai he dihan man lai khan lo sa china Chinlung chu kan pi le pu te chen na ania karamani ti in.
Okay, so the man in the light-coloured shirt is my friend Wu Damen, but the other man is a villager from Xinlong in China.
He di lai I kor u khazo ki ka champa u ta man sonia chuan abula ding hi China ki di lai Jinlong ami sonia.
Okay, and here's one of the many caves that are near this location. Have I got some? Oh, it's the same as the one on the banner. Here's another one with steps carved into the cave. And so historically, people lived in these caves hundreds of years ago.
Heti lai zinlong huna hianin puk tap tak oma an han zir chwa khanin he pu ka hian kum zaliam ta khanin mi den lo cheng china ni tin hu chwa ka.
Okay, part 4, Manas as a common name.
Thu pui palina point palina chuanin Manas ti hi ming ka common ta kania.
Manas, Manmasi are common names from Central Asia, the Altai, Kyrgyzstan, Inner Mongolia, to northeast India amongst the Kuki, Mizo, Chin and their associated clans.
Manas, Manasi, Manmasi ti hi ming tang lo ta kania chu Central Asia, Altai te Kyrgyzstan te Mongolia te China te India rama te po Asia chuanin northeast chuanin Chin, Kuki, Mizo te khanin he hi kan shetlang lo no me.
The Manas of the Kyrgyz, because that's what their name is, that he's the hero of their famous poem. The poem has, let me work that out. It has 5 lakh lines in it.
I Manas ti Kyrgyzstan an thua chuanin nuai nga chuang mei hi thua thumala oma.
Richard Hewitt, who's here with us today, found many hundreds of biblical parallels between Manas, who is often the hero of these stories, and the Bible.
Chắc kan zingom he Richard Hewitt hianin ain anna an thu tele Bible a khanin ain anna enge mozat kha mu chhuak boka.
So there's a statue of Manas, the hero, riding a horse.
So alem kan muang khanin Manas chuanin sakor chung chuang kha na oma chu Kyrgyzstan an Manas chuania.
Okay, so in the epic, here's one of the things that it writes. They journeyed to their places, the field of Manchuria, on the other side of Tibet. Not the slightest is heard from them.
This one in Antua, so heti hiane in Zaka, Tibet Mara, Tibet Changin and Zin Swaka, this one Manchurian Moalan Vathenga, Sumi Piala Matsuan Tibet Oma, Katachang Khanin, Koyangi and Kaltagan Shetalawani.
So in other words, the people in Kyrgyzstan know they've got brothers on the other side of Tibet. And when every 2 or 3 years there's a festival in Kyrgyzstan on the epic of Manas, and you know they have people like me come and present, people like Richard come and present, and they often have dancers and singers that come from Tibet as part of the cultural display that they do there.
As Zabira trying Kyrgyzstan Chang Khanin Tibet Ankal Khanin, Ikatilai Muna Khanin Kumhi Danate Khanin Hitang program and here Nachina Zai meet and Ronkala presenters, Mushang Shang meet and Ronkal China.
And so what's interesting, are the people from Assam, that there's on the border of Bhutan there is a river called Manas, is that right? And there's a national park called the National Park of Manas.
Asama khanin I Manas Park National Park oma ti chuanin ramria khanin khatiang ping kha om boka.
Okay. So getting back to the Mizos, Zaitang Chuni says in the many chants used in various sacrifices, they call on the name Menasha, Manassi, and it's often cited. The children of Manasseh offer thee blood sacrifices, O God of High.
Zaitan chungina le khapuzia ka pokhanin mizo namte khanin in thoina an ti don reng khanin Manasse ti mingte anong kala Manasse fate kan ni e kan thisen karon peki chungnung berdal pa nang in lopom ron ti china.
And so many more of these are presented in the papers that we will have at the end of this symposium. I'm just giving you a few. Dr. Kuplan, of course, dedicated his book to Manmasi. That's his book title, the top over there. We carry in our chest to the 4 corners, we carry the stones of the riverbed and we walk across. This sounds like the crossing of the Jordan River.
Dr. Kuplan kana le khabu chu heti lai kan hmuang hi nia athu zia ka khanin lung kha an om chen khanin am puwa mun chang changa an da thote kha an soya chu chuan entir ni ber lang chu Jordan lui an kan hun lai kha nia.
And this poem ends with this statement: let wellness and good health always be with the children of Manmasi, your creation.
ti chuan chu thu chu heti hian a top an khara chu Shisel na le dam rei na chu ifate Manasseh te chunga hianin omti rang chelal pa ti in.
Okay. Howard Chung will later in this symposium talk about whether the Manchu itself is actually a reference to Manasseh.
Howard Chung in kina heti lai pon thurun soinga chu chuan in Manasseh te le China te in na om thu te aron soyanga.
Okay. Part 5 is the big wall. Mizos remember escaping through a hole they dug in a big wall. It appears many people were enslaved in China to build the Great Wall.
This one part 5 na chuanin bang lian pui chung chang kan string chu mizo te dan lawin shil chon na khan chuanin chu bang lian pui chu ker chuakin chu te chang chuanin an tlan chua kan tia ta khan sala te an ta nga.
Okay, and I just want to finish off with some common language. When I went to Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan in 2019, I took Michelle Vate, the singer. I took Charlie from Heritage, and Sitair from Cardinal Choir. I took the three of them with me. Now they were being interviewed by 2 Kyrgyz people, and they overheard "toto toto," meaning stop fussing. And of course, in Mizo, how do you say it?
Stop.
What?
It's enough.
What?
It's enough. Okay.
Yeah. To. Okay, you say it. Yeah.
Okay.
Richard's going to say it in Kyrgyz, and yeah.
So in Kyrgyz they say tokto.
In Mizo we say tokto.
Okay. Right.
And, same meaning, to stop fussing.
Kyrgyzstan khanin makuma khanin pri Margo crossing te thanjin khanin local meet an hanin biak na khanin tokto ro du tokto ro ti ang hemizawin kan nei kha an nipon tokto ti nan lo soi ve thoni.
Okay. So in Kuki, Kuki they have the same name for ancient writing as they do in Kyrgyz. In Kuki it means the original book. In Kyrgyz it means ancient writing.
Kyrgyzstan le Kuki le Kyrgyzstan na chong inang an nei chu bulpizam ti ania chu chu tora e mole khabu soina ni chu tiang cha son Kyrgyz ho pon bulpizam an lo ti ve ni.
Okay, so the conclusion is we've got stories, many connecting peoples of a lost book. We've got the same people having stories of the name Manasseh. We have the Karen dating themselves from the year of the Israel captivity. We have the Cookies crossing the Red Sea, and we have the Kwangmin having Yom Kippur rituals and holding a Moses rod, and we have very many biblical references in the Epic of Manasseh, as Richard will talk about later.
Swalin atlang kom nan so heti hian han soi zok ta ila lekhabu bo chung sang te he nam song song hian an neya tin current te chuanin marlam dal ram sal ta na changin an kumbi an chai chan ti kan hua tin chong shang sham bible changa in an dan te chuan China te Yom Kippur ang hun bi an lo chhar te le ku dan lo von dan te kan hua chu me pa ka Richard Hewitt na lekhabu chang le a research chang khanin thil in nang tam tak kan hu ni.
Okay, and if you want to download the chapter about the Karen with all of their biblical poems, you can download it from this QR code.
A QR code chang hanin Karen how chung chang in shadow chuan in scan nga in download theyang.
Okay, and so thank you for listening, and we'll have some questions and answers.
So na le chan na hun kan nei don nya in ngai tha ka wangin kan lo me.
Okay.